71% of Americans, half of Democrats, say Biden is too old to be president, and a majority of voters say they are worse off since he became president. Clay, the numbers are starting to get scary for the Democrat side here. What's going on?
Dementia Joe is taking on water in a big way. And I looked at two different polls that came out this weekend, Buck. Biden was down 6 in a Harvard-Harris poll. Never, to my knowledge, and one of you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I understand that there is apprehension about polls in general and everything else, but okay, let me just share what these polls are saying. They have Joe Biden down 6 at Harvard-Harris, and one that just came out today from Rasmussen. Now, it tends to be a favorable, little bit right-leaning, Rasmussen does, poll collection. But they also have Trump up 6. And I don't recall any time in the entire 2020 presidential election, Buck, that anybody had polls with Donald Trump having a 6-point lead on Joe Biden. Now, I understand, again, some people don't trust polls. And I also understand we're sitting here at mid to late June, the year before a presidential election, and there is a lot of moving parts. But I would submit to all of you out there that Biden and Trump are known quantities to the nation at this point. It's not as if one of them is sort of the surging upstart candidate and people are just learning who they are. I think that Joe Biden is taking on immense amounts of water. And Buck, it's impossible to ignore every single time that he speaks now, he has no idea how to leave the stage. Do we have the God Save the Queen craziness from Friday where Joe Biden is addressing gun violence and not making any sense about that? But inexplicably, he decides to end his address by saying, God Save the Queen, man. I believe we have that audio.
Cut two, play it.
All right. God save the Queen, man.
Okay, Buck, and then obviously the president's music comes on. But first of all, the Queen is dead. So God rest her soul. Queen Elizabeth is no longer here. So even that is a weird thing to say. But I was reading in Axios, Buck. They tried to talk to Biden staffers and say, what in the world did he mean by this? And none of them could explain at all why he decided to say that. And this comes on the heels of him falling down on the stage at the Air Force Academy graduation and of his continued brain lapses when he's just trying to have normal sort of conversations. Buck, when you saw this, what did you think? I mean, it ties into me. Remember at the end of the State of the Union where he finished and he said, go get him. And he keeps having these strange interjections at the end of all of these different speeches. And most of them are off teleprompter. So when he goes off script, to the extent he can even read off the script now, it just further elucidates a dementia-laden aspect of his personality at this point.
This is why I've been saying all along, there's so much, there's some people get really deep into the, they get nasty in the Republican primary because they think they know the future, because they think they know who. And I sit here and I go, no one knows anything right now about how this is going to shake out. We are learning as we go. There's a very strong case to be made that Biden's not even going to be on the ballot in Iowa or New Hampshire, right? And you say, wait, hold on a second. How is that even possible? RFK Jr. may end up winning. I mean, what happens if you start to see some craziness with that, right?
I think it's a fantastic question, Buck. Like, if RFK Jr. wins Iowa and wins New Hampshire, and you mentioned my wife rarely comes to me and talks about anything that I haven't seen. She said, hey, I listened to RFK Jr. when you guys had him on as a guest on your program, and she was interested enough to seek him out on Joe Rogan and go listen to the entire interview. And she said, you know what? I really like him. Like, compared to Biden, he's like a ray of sunshine, maybe even a whole rainbow.
Yeah, look, I come from a perspective of having been avowedly and deeply right-wing since I'd say I was about 15 years old. So anyone who is a lifetime person of the left I'm always very skeptical. I come at this like, okay, hold on a second. I will say that on the merits of the Rogan interview in particular, and also now what he said on this show about COVID, yeah, we knew that was going to be.
He agrees with all of us. For people who didn't hear
Yes.
that interview, he agrees with all of us about COVID. And one other thing I'd add, Buck, is he's right on this women in sports thing. He's the only Democrat that's like, this is crazy.
Yeah, he's actually racking up some of those areas where you say the people who are not fully brainwashed, the people who have not just given themselves over to the hive mind entirely left of center are saying, well, hold on, this guy's more reasonable than isn't it fascinating? The Biden position. Biden is a total Trojan horse for the left, exactly as we said all along. Biden is giving speeches basically about how, we need gender affirming care for 12-year-olds. Old man Biden supports gender mutilation of kids, okay? For anyone who thought this guy was a moderate, that's a total lie. We knew it was a lie. RFK Jr. is still a Democrat. I want to push him on some of the issues. I want to ask him, where he was excellent on immigration when I heard him at the border, too. So all I can go on is what the guy is saying now, what he's telling us he believes and would push for. But, I'd want to ask him about a whole range of issues. Criminal justice, I haven't heard him. Has he said anything on criminal justice? Everyone knows that's a big issue for me, something I focus on a lot. But Clay, just so I know, I feel like people might have thought I was going off the rails of the crazy train there for a second. This was from last month in Politico, okay, which is a Democrat political, hack situation. It's a rag for the Democrats. Top Democrats are scrambling for ways to avoid a catastrophe in New Hampshire in which Joe Biden may not appear on the primary ballot, ceding the first unofficial contest of 2024 to a fringe candidate. The bizarre predicament is one of the president's own making after he pushed for changes to the party's presidential nominating calendar that stripped the Granite State of its first-in-the-nation primary. The move was designed to reward South Carolina, which catapulted Biden in 2020, but there's a state law requiring New Hampshire's contest be held a week before any others. So it is not crazy as we sit here and you're talking about old man Joe that you could, when we're talking fringe candidate, RFK Jr. is getting what, 25, 30% of the vote right now in some of the polls? That's pretty big fringe candidate.
And also think about how much attention, Buck, he would get if Biden's not on the ballot and he wins Iowa and New Hampshire. And I think it's important. You said it. We come back. I want to kind of build on what you're saying about Biden as a far left Trojan horse candidate, because Biden actually is on the wrong side of many of these issues for Democrats, certainly not considering the whole country, but like the trans issue in particular. And we come back, let's talk about what's going on there. And RFK Jr. speaking true.
Look, Iowa Democrats are also like, blank you, buddy. We have a system. The system means we're supposed to go and we're supposed to go. You just want to jump ahead to South Carolina. Iowa Democrats may not play that game, my friend. So we could have two primaries that Biden loses, and then it feels like all bets are off.